What's something you used to believe as a kid that you now look back on and think WTF was wrong with me? That actors would act in real time in a movie every time it was airing on TV. I used to think musicians were always in the radio station performing their song live on the radio when it played. I believed that a werewolf lived in the woods behind our house. I used to collect animal bones during the day and lay them out as bait at night. And when they were gone in the morning I took that as hard evidence. I once dragged an entire moose skeleton, piece by piece, from the woods to our house. My mother was not pleased. How did you find the moose skeleton? I wandered around in the forest and happened upon it by chance. We had a lot of moose and deer in that area, so it wasn't that uncommon at the time. Did it still have the antlers? Would make a cool decoration. Which is probably why the werewolf stole it. I thought grown women's nipples were really long, and that the bra compressed them back into the boob. Okay, this one made me chuckle. I used to think that penises were something that both men and women had. I'm a girl. I did not have a penis as a child, nor do I have one now. I figured it was something that would eventually just grow in over time. Got really excited waiting for mine to grow. Really wanted to be standing up it now. Needless to say I was very disappointed when I learned I was destined to live a life confined to the toilet seat. This is probably the most amazing one of these I've ever heard. I just thought girls had nothing at all down there. There is no dick, only the void. I'd be laying in bed at night, terrified that a huge tidal wave full of sharks would engulf my house. I live nowhere near water. Still a better horror story than Sharknado. Isn't that literally what Sharknado is? When I was 7 a friend told me you have sex by laying on top and sticking your penis in a girl. With no frame of reference for a girl's anatomy, I envisioned it as they also having a penis, and you touched tip to tip, and because boys were stronger you would push your penis into thus making an inverted penis tube into their bodies, which you had sex with. This is the worst image I've ever had in my mind, and I hate it. You're welcome. Weird one. When I was like 4 I once put a bit of cereal in my belly button cause I didn't want the baby in my stomach to starve. WTF. Thought people hired suicidal people so they can die in the movies. First thought of that in Jurassic Park when that guy in the toilets get eaten by the Rex. Bro same. I used to think that exact same thing whenever I saw someone die on TV. For the first 7 years of my life, I thought my name was Oggy. I'm a female named Chloe, and when people would ask me what my name was, I would tell them Oggy. When my mother would call me Chloe, I would get angry, and I was certain I was Oggy. Took my mom, dad, and grandparents years before I accepted my actual name. Why though? I was terrified to eat anything close to the core of an apple, because I believed an apple tree would grow inside me. I'll admit I used to think apple seeds were incredibly poisonous so wouldn't go anywhere near the core for fear of accidentally licking one. You'd have to eat an unholy amount of them before you'd experience any kind of poisoning. This one might be my dumbest. When watching TV I thought I could predict what the voices were saying and like say the same words at the exact same time as them in my head. Turns out I was just listening. Oh my gosh, I used to do this with music. I'd hear a song and know all the words in my head, but I did not. Watching old movies and TV shows, I used to think the world was black and white until color was invented. If it was raining everywhere. Minecraft. I used to think chocolate milk came from brown furred cows. I used to always look for pink cows to see a strawberry milk creating one. My older cousin said strawberry milk is tainted with blood, but the pasteurization process levels it out. So gross. I used to think dogs and cats were the same animal. Cats were girls and dogs were boys. Anyone that says they didn't believe this as a kid is a liar. Or, yeah no, grew up around animals. That when my mom, pre-puberty and pre-acne, was helping me stay pimple free when she'd force me down and pick my face. Girls don't like pimples. Slap stop getting away from me. It ultimately led to a case of dermatillomania throughout my teens and early 20s. I still pick, but I've learned restraint and don't often mutilate myself anymore. Only sometimes when really stressed out. I seriously thought then, despite hating it, that this was helpful and normal parenting. I had a similar experience. Thankfully, it didn't get to the point of dermatillomania, but I do have a hard time not picking at stuff if I stand in front of mirror too long. When I was a kid I used to think that the train line that ran through my town to London was the only train line in the country and we were just mega lucky to happen to live next to it. Similarly, I thought there was an airline that only flew one flight from my local airport in Kitchener out to Calgary. That if we had a bigger TV I could see more of the picture. I thought spiders were crafty enough to dress up in moth costumes and lull you into a false sense of security so they could bite you. Fam, that's not fake. That's straight truth. You will have to use this in the real world. You won't always have a calculator. Kid, Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy only visit rich white kids. This is what I was told. I later found out that neither entity is quite so racist. Reality, they just don't visit non-believers. Which makes sense. You wouldn't want a jolly old man coming in through your chimney uninvited. Her parents are pretty fucked up, man. I can spoil the fuck out of my future nephews and nieces. That will irritate my siblings. I had a lawyer because I had a phone. I thought you got a new name once you were an adult, like Mary is your kid name, then Sue is your adult name. My mom laughed at me for a while after I asked her what her baby name was. When I was super young, I honestly don't know where it came from, was quite strongly racist. I told my dad that I didn't like the black woman he was dating because she looked different. He sat me down, explained to me what my thoughts were and why they were wrong. And that black woman is now my stepmom and honestly one of the most inspiring people I have in my life. I look back now and think, what the fuck, younger me, where the hell did you get racist thoughts from? But there is also a part of me that is thankful for going through this enlightenment whilst I was young and growing up with the value of acceptance. That quicksand was everywhere and it would be a part of my life much more that it is. Yes, my two biggest fears in life were quicksand and the Bermuda Triangle, lol. I also used to believe once we lost blood we didn't get it back. So basically you have 8 pints to last your entire life. Being an adult will be so cool. For a long time I thought holes would just randomly appear in your clothing if you smoked cigarettes. Holes in your clothes was one of the reasons they gave us to avoid smoking. They didn't specifically say that ashes will burn the holes. So I just assumed you would become some sort of grubby street urchin with whole white clothes because you smoked a couple butts. That's a good one. I'm a girl, and as a kid I always used to think that both males and females had the same private part and had to make out to have a baby. Only child? r/Alabama. I also used to believe strangers offering me free drugs would be a much more common occurrence. Unfortunately it seems that is not the case. Gotta go to a burn.